Streaming live via the internet. Welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. Chat live with us weekly via ispradio.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies, providing ISP consulting, support, and hardware for wireless ISPs. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps. Mimosa Networks, providing high-density, high-bandwidth radio products. Advanced LLC, providing retail and wholesale advanced communication services by matching providers with your bandwidth needs. And by Sitel, providing reliability in surge suppression. And now your host for ISP Radio, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to ISP Radio. My name's Dennis Burgess. We are going to be by ourselves as Mr. Grabiel is out of town and doing a little bit of traveling today. So today we have a number of things we're going to be covering. Unfortunately, our guest that we had scheduled, Raj, had an unfortunate incident that he has to take care of, so he will not be with us today. But that's okay, because we have plenty of information to go around. So today, let's first off start with our industry news. There's been a couple things going on in the industry. One I'm going to kind of point out here is that a company called Ungoy Wireless was recently listed in the Cedar Valley Business Monthly online as a helper in getting high-speed internet to a furniture store that had recently had a disastrous fire. It's a great article. I'm going to go ahead and post that online so that anybody that wishes to see that can. Of course, you can go to our ISP Radio, and we'll put it in our comments in our archive. That link will be there as well, so that we can go ahead and everybody can go ahead and go online and check that out. But what this is a great article on how the Ungoy Broadband, which is of course a WISP wireless ISP, came in and basically helped out in getting a business that was basically destroyed by fire and comes to the rescue. They literally came in and installed the same day. So the business owner of this business owner came in and basically said, "Hey, we need to have some issues. We have to get this business going again after a fire completely leveled the business." And they came back in there and got the internet going right away. So really great article. Again, we're going to post that on our live chat. Actually, I'm doing that right now, so if you're online, you can of course see that right away. So really great information, great story on how wireless ISPs really help out. The second big thing we're going to talk about today is the Form 477. As you know, Form 477 is due December 11th. That is just over a week. So literally you have until next Wednesday plus a day. So next Thursday is the due date. December 11th is the due date. All wireless ISPs are required to file this form. And I wanted to kind of get into this form a little bit because there have been a number of misunderstandings of how this form is supposed to work and what you have to have. So once you log into the website, there's a whole bunch of information that you have to put in about your business, things like that. But the big the two hard portions are two sections, and these sections are going to be the Section 5.3 and Section 5.4. The easier section to get is Section 5.4. So let's talk about that first. This is the fixed broadband subscription. Now, what this is specifically for is this is to list and report end-user connections based on census tracts. There's only about 11,000 census tracts in the U.S., so it's pretty easy for people to come up, here's my census tract, and here's my end-user connections. So whenever we really look at detail at the U.S. Form 477, again, Section 5.4, Fixed Broadband Subscription, what we have is a number of fields. So this is just going to be a commented delimited text file that you're going to upload. You're going to have your 11-digit census tract code. So again, this is a census tract, not a census block. So you have to have the 11-digit code in there. The next field is the technology of transmission. For most wireless ISPs, you're going to use 70 for terrestrial fixed wireless. But there are options for cable, optical carrier, satellite, power line, DSL, etc. You're going to have to pick whichever one fits your needs inside that track. If there is multiple technologies used, you would specify that same tract again, except with a different technology for transmission. The next two items is upstream and downstream bandwidth. And this is kind of a question people have. What it specifically says, and I'm just going to read straight from the documentation. It is the downstream bandwidth of the service as sold in megabits. So if you're selling an account that's 10 meg, then in that census tract, it doesn't matter about everybody else. If you have one account that's 10 meg and all the rest of them are 1 meg, that doesn't matter. What you're asking is, what is the downstream bandwidth of service? And you can enter up to 3 decimal places, and then further on it reports or reads, report the maximum advertised downstream bandwidth of the service. If no downstream bandwidth is mentioned in the marketing, then enter bandwidth the customer should expect to receive. So again, let's say you have 20 connections inside that census tract. 19 of those are 1 megabit down, and the one is a 10 megabit down. You would simply enter 10 because this is basically the maximum advertised downstream bandwidth of service that you're currently providing. And that's the big thing here. This is the subscription data. This is the data that the FCC wants to know in the census tract. What is the maximum advertised downstream and upstream service that you're currently getting? So this is you're currently servicing. It both asks for upstream and downstream, and then it asks for the number of connections. So in our example, we use the example of 20 users or 20 connections. So we would have 20 connections. And the very last field is the number of connections in the census tract that would be considered consumer or residential. So consumer or residential accounts. So out of those 20, let's say 19 of them are residential, and that one is a business. So you would have 19 connections that are consumer and 20 total connections. So your line would basically read, here's my census tract. My technology would be terrestrial fixed wireless, so the code 70. Downstream bandwidth would be 10. Upstream bandwidth is whatever the maximum upstream. So let's say that business customer gets 5 over 10. So 5 up, 10 down. So it'd be 10 down, then 5 up. There'd be 20 connections in the census tract, and 19 of them would be consumer connections. So that's it. That's a simple, easy line, but you have to be able to add all that up. Now, whenever we look at Form 477 and easy ways of creating this data, modifying the data, and keeping track of this data for governmental purposes, what we find in a lot of cases is that your billing platform really should have most of this data. They're going to know where the customer is based on either address or GPS location that you put in the system. They should have the packages, what billing or what packages you're offering them, so what is their max up-down speeds. They should also know, is this a business or a residential account? So all the rest really can be derived from your billing data. And that's what we're seeing a lot of, is we see a lot of billing systems, everything from WISP.net, PowerCode, BillMax, Azotel, all these billing platforms are offering some type of Form 477 data. But what they don't sit there and tell you in many cases is that they're not offering the other option or the other thing that you have to have. So you have to have Section 5.4. That's the fixed broadband subscription. And your billing platform, whatever that may be, whether it be an in-house or not, your billing platform is probably the easiest and best place to get this data. It can be easily retrieved from the data set that you already have. The other portion is the much harder one, and this is what we call the fixed broadband deployment, or Section 5.3. Most of your billing platforms do not have any idea where the actual coverage, where you could provide service. okay? And the Section 5.3 is based for fixed broadband deployment. It wants to know where you can deliver service, okay? And I'm looking for this thing, but basically I'm just going to be give you this I'm going to read this block, right? And this is, again, right from the FCC website, from their filing instructions. So this is not something that I'm making up. It is something that it specifically says. Basically, it's available. For the purposes of this form, fixed broadband connections are available in a census block if a provider does or could, within a service interval that is typical for this type of connection, that is without extraordinary commitment of resources, provision two-way data transmission to and from the internet with an advertised speed exceeding 200K, at least in one direction, to the end user premise in the census block. Now, what the heck does all that, what does that mean, okay? Whenever we look at that, basically it says, you must be able to provide or could provide. So you currently are providing, so the provider does, or could provide service within a census block. And notice I'm using census block now all of a sudden instead of census tract. Census tract, again, 11,000 census tracts in the U.S., where there's over 11 million is census blocks. So a lot more data here. Much smaller pieces of data, much smaller blocks, okay? But what it's saying is you must either provide or could provide within a reasonable time frame, paraphrasing here again, but within a reasonable time frame to provide service in that census block. So that's what the fixed broadband deployment is for. And think of it this way. What this is doing is this is telling the FCC, hey, I offer internet access here, okay? Whenever we look at this, this is very important to look at that, because whenever we look at CAF funding, Connect America funding, or any other type of funding that allows either incumbents, cable operators, anybody that can get government money to overbuild in an area, this data can be easily used, or it most likely is used, to help make the census blocks either currently served or underserved. That being said, if you don't give all the census blocks in which you cover, you come back to the point of, well, this all sounds really great and fine and dandy, but now someone else can come in, use government funds, and actually overbuild an area that you already cover. And that's not really a good thing for you or for your business plan, obviously. So the goal here is to get that data to the FCC. Whenever we look at billing platforms, as I did a moment ago with the Section 5.4, billing platforms do not know where your coverage actually is. And really the only thing that we can do to determine that is really one of two things. One, empirical data that we use, such as, hey, we went out driving, we know where we can get service, and we can assume a area of coverage, and say you can draw that in a polygon that's so large, and then we basically say any census blocks underneath that we would consider served. But that's not really giving you everything you need. It's not very accurate either, because some of these things, some of these companies out there, and I'm not going to mention any names, but some of these wireless ISPs and billing platforms think it's fine to take a tower and say, hey, I can cover 20 miles in all directions. Okay, that's not very that's not very good at all. And I know for a fact that a lot of the FCC is looking for that. They don't want to see a circle around said area. And because of that, we really need to get a better understanding. One of the customers I had seen, they had a coverage area on their website. And that coverage area extended a total, and I mean this, a total of about 26 points and covered a very large area. And what we end up getting is basically a lot of false positives. So you get a lot of customers say, oh, I'm listed in your service area, but yet they can't get service. Or the exact opposite is, hey, if you're being too conservative, the exact opposite being, hey, I want to get service, but I show that I'm not in your area, so therefore I'm not even going to talk to you, which is a really bad thing, because now you're sitting there going, hey, we got this issue is that now customers aren't even giving us the data, aren't even giving us an opportunity to see if we can get data to you. So all this is really good information. And whenever we go back to the fixed broadband deployment, we want to be fairly accurate. I'm not sitting there saying it has to be 100%, because no matter what we do, it's going to be virtually impossible to get 100%. But other services, such as our show sponsor, towercoverage.com, etc., can do RF propagation maps. And if you build those on such a site like Tower Coverage, you have the ability to modify that to be really real world with real world data. So in other words, you take what the received signal the site says, and you match it up with a known perfect line of sight customer, and now all of a sudden you can get a real world feel and modify it for your area, your trees, your foliage, etc., and you get a really, really accurate map. Is it going to be 100%? Of course not, but that's the ideal. So with the fixed broadband deployment, what you want to do is to get a listing of U.S. Census blocks that you make coverage in. And let's talk about the Form 477, Section 5.3, Fixed Broadband Deployment. And let's go down into the actual, what is it? What do we actually have to give out? So in each field, in each line, we have a number of fields. The very first field, of course, just like in the census, just like in the census tracts, this time we have census block. So it's a 15-digit census block code. Okay? So inside this census block, the next line is, what is the name of the entity the customers should contact to purchase service? So this is basically your company name. The next section, the next field would be your technology of transmission, very similar to the subscriber data. In most people's case, this is going to be terrestrial fixed wireless, but there are, of course, DSL, ADSL2, VDSL, cable modem, optical carrier, satellite. There's other options as well, depending on what you sell. So in most cases, you're going to put in your terrestrial fixed wireless, but it could be something else. The next thing is really easy. We have a line that says, is this market a consumer market? Yes or no. So in other words, is this census block, do you offer consumer grade service, so residential? And it's a yes, no. So in yes, no in binary for the Form 47, it's either 1 for yes, 0 for no. Then the next field we have maximum advertised downstream bandwidth consumer. And then the next one is upstream bandwidth consumer. Now this is a big difference between Section 5.4 versus what we're talking about now, which is Section 5.3. In 5.4, which is your subscriber data, this is the current maximum speed that someone should be is expecting to get. Whereas in the census block data, in the broadband subscriber deployment data, Section 5.3, we want to know what the maximum advertised downstream price is, downstream bandwidth is. So this means in this census block, hey, we offer 100 meg service. Whether or not they buy it or not, if that's for consumer grade, then we offer that, and you can put that in there. Okay? So this is, again, advertised versus what someone should expect to get. So those two fields, both downstream and upstream, are there. And then we have 3 more fields. Exact same fields as the consumer, but this time we have business and government. Now, there's a little difference in the business and government. First off, we have the field that has the block, do you offer business or government or enterprise broadband service? Yes or no in this census block. And then we have what we call maximum contractual downstream bandwidth. Now, this is a big difference. What this is I'm just going to read it straight again from the Form 477 documentation. For business or government broadband services, the maximum downstream contractual or guaranteed data rate throughput rate available in the census blocks in megabit. So in other words, you're saying you're going to contract or guarantee data throughput rate in the census block. So instead of you saying, hey, it's broadband and you can get up to, this is a guaranteed, more of a guaranteed line. Okay. Again, this is in a 3-digit decimal, so if it's only 768, then it'd be 0.768. But the whole ideal here is that this is a guarantee. Now, if you don't offer a guarantee of bandwidth, so if you say, hey, we don't offer that, even though it's business service, we don't offer it, it's just best effort service, then these fields, these maximum contractual downstream and upstream bandwidth, you're going to enter 0 for, because you're just giving best effort. But if you're guaranteeing bandwidth, hey, you're going to be guaranteed that you're going to get 3 meg or 10 meg, then you would place those bandwidths in here. So you need to be very careful whenever you look at this. Again, for residential, it is always a best effort number, the maximum advertised. Okay, so you're not sitting there asking, you will always get this. It's just what we're advertising. But on the business government side, it is the contractual. What data rate can you guarantee? Now, this is kind of an interesting side note, because there's no reason why you can't sit there and say, hey, let me go ahead and toss up what would normally be an AirFiber 5 link or something like that, and draw that circle, so a point-to-point link, and draw that in a way in which it shows technically I can provide point-to-point service up to AirFiber 5 speeds, and it should be up to, say, 300 meg, whatever you want to limit it at based on the RF properties. And you can do that RF coverage for that AirFiber point-to-point in all of your areas, and say technically I can get service here if that's what people want. So, but of course it requires a point-to-point installation. Now, if that is normal for you to toss up with, if it is normal for you to toss up a point-to-point link for a business customer, then that's reasonable. Then we can sit there and make that argument that that is a reasonable business practice. Remember, I go back to the section that says available, that you either do provide in that block or could provide within a service interval that's typical for that connection. So if you are normally putting up either licensed or unlicensed links, then guess what? We have a pretty good ideal of how long that's going to take, and as long as it's not unreasonable or without extraordinary commitment of resources, then that's a very plausible method of going about that. I believe that there was some changes later on that somebody did say that the expectation is about 2 weeks, but you can put up a unlicensed link in 2 weeks. So, and I wouldn't think that would be unreasonable areas. So all of this information, again, Form 477, those are your two big sections. Section 5.3 is the fixed broadband deployment. This is your coverage. This is where you currently cover and where could you cover within a service interval that is typical for you, okay, for that type of connection. So you can provide it within a really reasonable time frame. This is very important. This is probably the hardest one to get. And when we look at billing platforms, again, I'm not saying all billing platforms are the same, but most billing platforms cannot sit there and tell you where you should have service and where you can't, because you do not want to report where you have service only versus where you could get service. I'll give an example. Is a particular billing platform gave one of our customers a coverage, a census block, this fixed broadband deployment, and they had roughly 106 census blocks in there. And how they determined that, we didn't even look to see if it was a census block, to be honest with you, but that information was there. They said 106. Well, that seems quite low for us. Now, we're not in a rural, we're not in a downtown area, so depending on your census blocks, some are bigger, some are larger, and some are smaller. But we went ahead and ran it through the tower coverage system, and in actuality, there was about 5,506, actually that was the exact value, census blocks that they actually covered based on their map. So think about that. If you're trying to keep competitors out, keep competitors from using government money anyway. I should rephrase that. What can we do? What are you going to do? Well, are you going to report 107 or 110 census blocks, or are you going to report 5,500? Okay, as long as it's accurate, that's all that really matters, and you can put that information in there. So the Section 5.3 fixed broadband deployment, very, very important to ensure that you get accurate data in this system. Okay, extremely important that you get that accurate data. The next section, Section 5.4, again, fixed broadband subscription. This is where your customers actually are, where you're currently providing service, and how fast are you currently providing that service. So those are the two particular systems. Okay, two major systems. If you provide VoIP, then there is a fixed voice subscription section, Section 5.5, that you also need to fill out. But those are the two big sections that most wireless ISPs need to make. What we typically recommend, and this is coming from the tower coverage point of view, is towercoverage.com is going to get you the best data possible on the Section 5.3, your fixed broadband deployment, because your coverage area that you have built in there is going to be as accurate as you can, because you want it as accurate as you can, so that you can sit there and eliminate extra truck runs, false positives, etc. On the flip side of that, though, tower coverage does not know where your customers are. So your billing platform, whatever platform that may be, is most likely the best place to get that data, the Section 5.4 fixed broadband subscription data. So I kind of went over all the Form 477. It's all really good stuff. I hope everybody remembers next Thursday is the filing deadline. You need to make sure you get that filed if you have not done so. With that said, let's see what else we got going on in the industry. We do have the WISP America show coming up. And the wispapalooza.net, if you go to that, it'll actually take you to the WISP America 2015. This is right here in my hometown, St. Louis. It's down at the Union Station. It's a Hilton Hotel, DoubleTree. Beautiful in there. There is a Metrolink available from the airport to the Union Station there. There is plenty of things going on. They have not announced the not the attendees, but they have not announced all the exhibitors. They are starting to take up booth spaces and such. They have not announced the agenda yet. The agenda committee, I know, is working on it feverishly. And this is going to be starting at Monday, February 23rd, and go through Thursday, the 26th. And there's going to be, of course, trainings, breakout sessions, and just like many other WISPA shows, I don't know if you've ever been to one. Keep in mind, whenever you go there, your fees, the full conference pass is really the way to go. Because what that's going to get you is that's going to get you everything you need. You're going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's usually always a reception at night sponsored by somebody. There's usually always some type of lunch and snacks and drinks, etc. So really good. Go ahead and sign up. You need to sign up early. I know they are definitely giving you discounts before January 3rd. I believe the discounted price is $279. Whenever the door price is going to be $429. So definitely get registered to come to that WISP America event here in St. Louis. Again, that date is February 22nd through the 28th. And I know they're working on the agenda, and you'll eventually get that agenda data out there as quickly as possible. Let's see what else we got going on here. So next week, Wednesday, December 10th, we are going to have Matt Larson. Now, a few weeks ago, we had the FCC committee chair, Alex Phillips, with WISPA on the show. And that committee chair, Alex talked, that was on November 19th, just so everybody knows. And we talked about the Title II stuff from the Obama administration, what he had requested. And then we also talked about LTEU. And what LTEU is the ability for LTE operators, so incumbents, cell phone companies, etc., to extend their downstream bandwidth options into the unlicensed 5 gigahertz realm. So we heard from Alex on that, and there was a great debate on this, but basically Alex kind of went down the path of, we're not going to see a whole lot of large-scale fixed deployments in this, outdoor deployments. We're mostly going to see indoor hotels, airports, things like that, because that's really where they need it to supplement their downstream data inside areas that really have huge bandwidth requirements, such like airports and hotels and such. But Matt Larson is definitely thinking there is going to be or will be a usage for LTEU in large-scale deployments. And we're going to talk with him next week on LTEU. We're also going to talk about harm claim thresholds and some spectrum database stuff. So this is kind of the flip side of what the FCC chairperson Alex had talked about. And we're going to talk between those two guys and hopefully get them in maybe another show, maybe in January, get them together and actually have a little debate about this, because it is a heated topic right now in the WISP industry. On Wednesday, December 17th, we're going to have Deanna with NetSapiens on the line. We're going to be talking about their services, products, and offerings. And as you see, if you go to ISP Radio, make sure you hit us up because we got tons of stuff coming up. January 28th, we have Patrick Leary with Telerad coming in. I believe he even has or could have a product announcement. Maybe not. Don't know. At least a special announcement coming up as well. As always, if you have any questions about any questions about our radio show, hit us up at support@ispradio.com. If you have any suggestions for topics, of course, suggest those as well. We're going to probably cut our show off a little early and pretty quick today. I think the Form 477 detail that we went through is extremely, extremely important. Remember, December 11th, it's only a little over a week away. You have to get that done. It's not that hard. There are tools out there that are relatively low cost to get those things done in a timely manner. So make sure you do that as well. So with that said, I'm just going to make sure we don't have any questions on the show. I'll make sure I post that article up onto the show archive as well. But with that said, I don't have anything else. I think we're pretty good. If you have any questions, let us know. With that said, take it easy, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new insights and additional wisdom in our industry as well as your business. Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.